What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Wednesday night. We got NBR coming to you, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm rather passionate about, and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I am hot about. Excited to be back on this platform with you guys. Have not been on in quite a while. We have not done NBR in a good fat minute, and I've got a lot of topics and a lot of notes and a lot of news to be getting to. And of course, we do have a new studio. Appreciate all you guys. Look, I've told you this from the start of this platform, okay? The start of this platform. As we grow, as the subscription models grow, as the Patreon audience grows, as the SI.com audience grows, this platform and this network will begin to look a little bit more professional. Like this right here. Appreciate you guys. Let's get some feedback on it. Love that you guys enjoy the additions and the movements that we make around this platform. And it's all because of you. It's a direct reflection of the way you feel about this product. Appreciate you guys. I do have an opening rant for you. It is brought to you by Thrive Fantasy, our keynote sponsor for the night. It's where you can find out all your daily prop fantasy good stuff over there on thrivefantasy.com. Use promo code Brooks, and you will get 100% deposit match over there from the good friends at Thrive Fantasy. Tell them your boy Brooks sent you, and you'll get some free bonus match. Now, let's talk about this here opening rant, and it is the fact that in life, there is no need to deny the inevitable, okay? There is no need to deny the inevitable in life, and what do I mean by that? I mean that, look, Dan Mullen's got 3 years left on his deal. He's got 3 years remaining on a deal that they just gave him an extension. They just gave him this past offseason, and there's a lot of times left. There's a lot of time left on that deal, right, with $12 million worth of a buyout, but there is some stipulations in this contract that make it, you know, something that is in fact inevitable, something that is in fact something that needs to be taken care of by this administration, and rather quickly, right? $12 million buyout, but the stipulation of the contract states that no matter what, no matter if you fire him today or if you fire him 2 years from now, when he's still got a year left on his contract, the buyout is $12 million, okay? The buyout is $12 million no matter what. There is no the buyout clause is not going down. It's going to stay at $12 million no matter what. Okay, so what's the difference between eating that $12 million now and allowing your program to get potentially even worse down the road? Okay, I believe in college football, there are two reasons, and only two reasons, to keep a football coach around your program. Reason number one, success on the field, right? An upwards trend in your performance on the field. I wouldn't exactly go as far as to say that Florida has that going on, right? I think everyone, I mean everyone, even Florida fans would agree that the apex of the Dan Mullen regime so far was last year, an 8-4 football season, right? You sent two guys potentially to a Heisman Trophy finalist or final. You had Kyle Trask in that Heisman Trophy finalist, but you're on a downward trend, right? So you don't have an upward trend on the football field. There's not any positive news or notes coming out of your performance on the field. You are 4-5 at this point. So rule number one, reasoning number one for keeping a guy around your program ceased to exist at Florida right now, which is positive momentum on the football field. The other reason why I think you should keep a coach around, it's the reason I think Mike Norvell will survive whatever it is that's going on right now at Florida State, and it's recruiting success. If you can recruit, lean into it, right? If you can recruit, we're going to leave that off. If you can recruit in college football, you've got an opportunity to stick around, right? That's hilarious. Just phone boards falling off left and right. If you're listening to us on a podcast audience, you have no idea why I just stopped randomly. I would imagine that's going to happen multiple times tonight. I'm just going to let you guys know. Can't keep those things to stick onto the wall, but nonetheless, so there is no recruiting success right now at Florida, right? It's a downtrend. Shamar James just decommitted a couple weeks ago. Julian Humphrey just decommitted a couple weeks ago. Their 2023 class, it has the potential to lose some commitments coming down the path as well. So the recruiting success isn't there as well. So my two reasonings for keeping a college football coach around, they cease to exist right now. Okay, you're not having positive success on the field, and you're not recruiting at an elite level. What's the point of keeping you around? Especially if your buyout is your buyout. Your buyout's going to be what it is no matter what. So just bite the bullet now. Go ahead and get rid of it. And Mullen did that thing, right, that most college football coaches and most professionals and CEOs do all the time. They keep the scapegoat around an additional year, right? Who is Dan Mullen's scapegoat? It's obviously Todd Grantham. He had no reason to keep Todd Grantham around this past offseason. Zero reason. Had every reason in the world to fire him after giving up 144 points, I believe it was, in the final 3 games of the college football season last year. So he keeps him around. Why? So he can fire him this year and use that as bait to keep everybody off of his hind tail for the rest of the season. Now, if he loses again, I don't think there's any reason why they don't fire him automatically. Right? They fire him on the spot. They Lane Kiffin him. Don't let him even get back on the team bus if you lose another game. I believe they play a downtrodden Missouri football team, and then they got another couple of non-conference games that are meaningless against not very good football teams. So they have a chance to be bowl eligible this year, and I would just, like I said, I'd go ahead and bite those bullets. $12 million is going to be $12 million this year, just like it's going to be $12 million next year, just like it's going to be $12 million the year after that. Just go ahead. Just go ahead and get that money ready and go ahead and buy that contract out because there is no positive. There's no light at the end of the tunnel right now. You might as well stop delaying the inevitable and get this thing over with down there in Florida, despite the fact that every Georgia fan in America right now wants you to hold on to that football coach, which, again, is something that tells me you've got the wrong guy. If your arch rival, if your primary rival, the team that hates you the most, is sitting around every single night praying that you don't fire your head coach, you probably got the wrong one, right? You probably got the wrong one. Got a loaded show for you guys tonight. Would like to ask you, however, wherever you found this broadcast, hit that thumbs up, man. That's how we climb up those YouTube algorithms. You guys know that by now. You know I always ask you that. If you are not already, please go ahead and run over to patreon.com and subscribe to our fast, and I mean fast, growing family. You're probably going to hear from them at some point tonight. We will patch in that Discord audience very, very soon. We're going to do that first window for phone calls, guys, over there in the lounge. We're going to take those after our college football playoff rankings discussion, which are coming up right after our intro and right after we tell you what we got coming for you tonight. We are going to talk college football playoff rankings. We are going to talk about this matchup coming up for Georgia this weekend, which, believe it or not, I think is their biggest test they've had on the schedule, on paper at least, since that Clemson football game, and I'll explain to you why that is. It's a very, very hot Tennessee team that they're going up to play. They're in Nashville. We'll talk about them a little bit offensively and defensively, and we will close the show tonight as my ear continues to itch. We will close the show tonight with a topic that I'm super excited to bring to you. It's why history tells you that Georgia is just getting things rolling right now there in Athens. College football history will tell you that this is just the beginning of a potential decade-long run here for the Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart. All right. Everybody ready? We got a loaded NBR show. Appreciate you guys for being here tonight. Let's talk a little bit about college football rankings. I don't know why I keep spacing and pacing like that. We're going to get rid of that. Let's talk a little bit about college football rankings right now. Let's go through 1 through 11 right quick because I think these are the teams that matter as we currently sit here 10 weeks into the college football season, and we need some answers, right? Moving forward as the season progresses, we need some answers when it comes to this college football ranking. I think we all know. Right, we all know Georgia is the lone and only constant and known factor in college football right now. That's pure and point blank, right? One is no debate. In fact, it's the only clear-cut answer as to the college football playoff rankings right now. Georgia at 1, Bama at 2, Oregon, Ohio State, Cincy, Michigan, Michigan State, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, and TAMU, all 11 of which, believe it or not, I think still have a chance to get into the college football playoff. We'll start with TAMU just real quickly. I think if Texas A&M somehow gets into the SEC championship game due to Auburn beating Alabama in the Iron Bowl, which is not something that you should throw out as a non-possibility considering that game's being played at Jordan-Hare Stadium. But if Auburn beats Alabama, Texas A&M wins the West, coincidentally, and gets into the SEC championship game. If they manhandle Georgia, I don't find any reason why the college football playoff rankings wouldn't result in a first-time two-loss team making the college football playoff. I don't think that's asinine. I don't think that's out of the realm. I think it's a possibility that they end up getting in there. But let's talk a little bit about the rankings that sit right now. A lot of question marks here. A lot of people up in arms about some things going on, right? Prime example, the debate about, Oregon and Ohio State, Oregon being 3, Ohio State being 4, due to a head-to-head matchup, you would presume. But then you look down the list, and Michigan 6, Michigan State's 7, despite 10 days, 15 days earlier. Well, Michigan State beat Michigan at home, right? So that's the biggest question. That's the one I hear everyone talking about. It's asinine. They've lost all the credibility that they once had, yada, yada, yada. Everyone complaining about this one thing. And I'm here to tell you, guess what? Right? Guess what? Ohio State plays both of those teams moving forward. Ohio State still got to play Michigan. Ohio State still got to play Michigan State. This Big 12 debate about 6 and 7 and 3 and 4, it's going to get figured out. It's going to get figured out. There's schedules left to be played. There's big games in the Big 10 left to be played. Same thing for you folks out there at Oklahoma that are complaining about being ranked 9, okay? Or complaining about being ranked 8 right now, actually. Okay, you're undefeated. Yes, you are 9-0. You hadn't really handled your business like you're supposed to if you're going to be a, college football playoff team, a team that's going to get into the playoff convincingly, right? And without doubt, you got to dominate a little bit more on the football field. But guess what? Right? Everyone in the Midwest right now is up in arms about Oklahoma being in the 8th ranked spot, despite the fact of being undefeated. They're behind Cincinnati, a non-Power 5 team that's also undefeated, and it's also squeaked out some wins and hadn't really handled their business like they're supposed to if they're going to be a non-Power 5 team making the playoffs. Everyone in the Midwest is upset right now, thinking there's some SEC bias and some Big 12 hatred, right, towards Oklahoma in the Big 12. And I'm here to tell you, guess what? Just like the Big 10, you've got games left on your schedule that will take care of this, right? They will take care of whatever it is that you got issues with in terms of the rankings, right? You play Baylor this week, Oklahoma. You handle your business against a really good Baylor team, you're probably going to go up the rankings. Guess what? Next week you play Oklahoma State, or Iowa State, I believe it is, and you close the season with Oklahoma State. 2 ranked opponents that are still left on your schedule that you can still go out and handle convincingly and climb up into a top 4 spot in the college football playoff rankings. Your season is left in front of you. And the other complaining point, right? Everyone wants to moan and complain about Alabama being number 2, despite the fact that they've pretty much played or won every national title, played for or won every national title or in the playoffs for what? 9 of the last 15 years? I mean, it's been astronomical, the amount of winning that they've done. But despite all of that, people still want to complain about Alabama being number 2. But guess what? They got to win out. They got to beat a ranked Auburn team that's playing a lot better as of late. And they've got to go to the SEC championship game if they beat Auburn and handle a number 1 ranked Georgia football team. And guess what? If they lose either of those football games, they're outside the top 4. So, and look, this is the number 1 rule when it comes to people in my position that are sitting in here and they task themselves with an hour straight of talk radio or an hour straight of talk podcast or an hour straight of talk simulcast, right? I'm not supposed to sit here and tell you that none of this stuff matters. I'm not supposed to sit here for 10 minutes and tell you that, hey, just be patient. It's going to sort itself out, right? I can sit here and poke holes in every single one of these teams in the college football playoff rankings right now except for Georgia. It's fun. It's talking points. It's a great TV show that everyone watches on Tuesday nights to find out where their football team is. But it doesn't mean a hill of beans. It does not mean a hill of beans right now. All you got to do is go out and handle your business. Go out and take care of what's remaining on your schedule unless you're Cincinnati. If you're Cincinnati, you got to hope somebody in front of you loses. You really got to hope Georgia wins out and doesn't allow Alabama to sneak in to the college football playoff because they won a 1-score game in the SEC championship game. You can't allow that to happen if you're Cincinnati. None of this stuff matters. I just spent 10 minutes on something that does not matter right now because, again, there's games left on the schedule. There's things this stuff will figure itself out. Okay, it will 100% figure itself out. All right, let's go to the phone lines right quick. Let's load up some of these lounge guys. Look, we do some lounge sessions over there in Discord pretty often, and I mean pretty often. I would say we do these things probably 3 or 4 times a week. If there's ever a big UFC fight, we're in there. If there's ever a big boxing match, we're in there. If there's ever anything fun, after a Georgia football game, maybe Georgia plays at 3:30, there's a big time game at 8. We're in the lounge, hanging out, talking some mess, chilling out. watching sports together. So let's go out to the lounge right now. We will go first to, I guess, Justin. I don't see anyone unmuted, so I'm going to start calling folks out. Justin, we're going to go to you, buddy. If you could, please unmute for me. What's up, Justin?
What's up, man?
How you doing, buddy? What do you think about the college football playoff rankings? I know I just basically told everyone that it doesn't matter, but what are your thoughts right now? Did you think maybe the committee kind of exposed themselves with the difference between Oregon, how they treated Oregon and Ohio State's head-to-head matchup versus how they treated Michigan and Michigan State's head-to-head matchup?
Well, yeah, I mean, first off, Georgia's number one, so that's all that matters ultimately, right?
I'm surprised I didn't get a Go Dogs and maybe a Wolf.
Yeah, there you go. But so beyond that, I mean, the Michigan State, man, that blew my mind there. I mean, obviously, I'm not not on that committee, but that really I don't get that there. I think they're definitely starting to show themselves there on the fact that they're just I won't say just a bunch of old guys that administrators and such, but it is odd what some of the selections that they've done there. And at first I was definitely one of the ones on Alabama too that was like, I don't think they deserve to be a number two. They some of the struggle wins, I mean, that they had, and you look at even when they played Mercer. I mean, ultimately it was a runaway game, but beginning they were really slow there. But
Yeah.
I think especially now moving forward, they placed them number two. Now for anything to happen, they have to lose pretty much. That's what they've told everybody is Alabama has to lose one more game for them to move from number two. Otherwise, I mean, they're there. They placed them there, and now they want them to be number two.
Yeah, I'll take you one step further, Justin, and I appreciate the call. I'll take it one step further. If they beat Georgia, they're one. They go into the playoff ranking as number one overall, despite what Georgia's work, resume to that point looks like. Let's go out to our boy CF_UGA, man. What's up, CF?
So, playoff rankings. I had an interesting conversation with a buddy of mine today. He's a Michigan State fan, and he was okay with it. He said, "Hey, you know what? I get it. Yeah, Michigan State beat Michigan, but then we lost to Purdue. So totally understandable why we would be ranked below Michigan." But then he went on to say exactly like you did. It's going to figure itself out. And also we had a great conversation about, Ohio State maybe losing another game. And we didn't think it was going to be to Michigan because Harbaugh loves to lose those games. And it'll be very interesting to see how Mel Tucker can get his team back together because they're definitely in the thick of this still. And maybe we'll see, one of the old bowl games come back to life back in the years when Georgia was playing Michigan State in some bowl games, but maybe it'll be worth something a little bit more this time.
I think you bring up a great point, CF, and it's incredible that he hasn't already been kind of let go, and I get it because of the name, right, Harbaugh, but I think his record against Michigan State and Ohio State's like 6 or 7 games under 500. Like, he has been getting beat like a steel drum by his two biggest rivals. Imagine this, right? Like, Georgia fans really, really every once in a while want to go after Kirby Smart for a quarterback decision or whatever, right? Or, how he handles whatever he's handling. Imagine if Kirby Smart lost majority of his football games against Georgia Tech and Florida. Yeah. Imagine that. You guys 100%. would be up in arms.
I looked it up for you real quick. So Harbaugh's record against Ohio State is 0-5.
Jesus.
And he is 3-3 against Michigan State as per SI.
So he is 3-8 overall against his two biggest rivals. I think Kirby Smart has dropped one of those games. He's 3-1 against Florida, correct? And he's 4-0 against Georgia Tech. Or did he lose in 16? He lost in 16. I think he lost his first year to Georgia Tech. Outside of that, he's been pretty much perfect, right? A loss to both of those, and outside of that, has run the table against both those programs. CF, you got anything else for us before we head back into the show? Appreciate you. Anybody else wants to hop in, feel free to do so. We got a couple more minutes. I see G House 88 coming in here. What's up, G House?
Yo, man. I just had a question. I don't want to change the subject from the playoff, but
feel free.
With Georgia, I know, listening to the Discord, we've been talking about it a bunch, but everybody's kind of complaining about being able to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like they, at times, especially later in the game against Missouri, they ran the ball a lot better. But I'm noticing, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I notice it seems like Georgia seems to run into the blitz a lot. And, I mean, maybe.
So, to answer your question, G-House, like the last game against Missouri, they stacked the box a lot. Like a lot of college football teams nowadays are not necessarily blitzing. Now, they will overload the box to put enough hats in the box where you can't physically run the ball unless you're just doing what Kirby calls stubbornly running the ball, right? Being able to run against loaded boxes and do so successfully. There are very few football teams in college football nowadays that can do such a thing, where they can just line up and bully you and push you around. Matter of fact, I don't think there is one that can be one-dimensional and just move you despite the fact that you got 9 guys in the box. So not a lot of teams blitzing, but what I will tell you is that despite the fact that Todd Monken is an air raid guy, most of his principles, most of his deep shots right nowadays, especially with Stetson Bennett at the quarterback position, they have come from what? From under center off play action, right? So despite the fact that, sometimes you've just got to keep feeding a running back that's maybe not coming off with successful runs because your offensive line's not dominating the line of scrimmage against loaded boxes, sometimes you have to be deliberate and know that, a 2-yard gain is still a positive play because feeding the 2-yard play, feeding that heavy run action might open up a deep shot or might open up a slip screen to Brock Bowers that's off of a similar action, things like that. So I don't think Georgia is progressively going out and meaningfully going out and running into heavy boxes. I think it's something that they're doing one thing, right? They're doing A to set up B. And I think that's the most important thing, and that's the thing that Monken's offense has stood out for the last, 5 or 6 years that I've been studying him. Anything else, GG House?
No, I'm good, man.
Appreciate you, brother, man. We will take phone calls a little bit more, a little bit later. Appreciate all you guys. If you want to be a part of our Discord family, again, that is something that we do quite a bit. Most of the time it's just, dudes hanging out. We got some ladies in there as well. Shout out MK Canty. I know she's watching tonight. You just want to come hang out with some dudes and some cool ladies and talk some football, primarily Georgia football. If you want to watch some UFC fights together, if you just want to hang out with some people that are like-minded with you, head over to patreon.com/Brooks Austin, and you can, too, sign up for the Discord Lounge that, again, is growing and popping. I love that place. Made some really close friends over the last year that we've been doing this now over there on Discord. So some lifelong relationships being built over there as a community, and that's what the number one thing about what we do is all about. It's about content and community, the 2 C's, right? Content and community. That's what we do over there on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Let's take another minute to thank you guys for being here tonight. It is a loaded show. We are about halfway through, I would imagine. We still got 2 really big talking points. Going to lay the wood to this Tennessee idea that, they got a good shot, and I do think they got a good shot this weekend to at least make it interesting for the first time in 9 weeks for Georgia football fans and the Georgia football roster and football team. But appreciate you guys for being here tonight. If you could, hit that thumbs up button over there on YouTube. Feel free to tell your friends about what we got going on over here. We got new additions. We got phone calls. We got all kinds of new gadgets and content coming your way. So feel free to join us. Hit that subscribe button as well. Appreciate you guys a ton. Let's get into what we're talking about here when it comes to Tennessee, right? I think Tennessee proposes some really unique challenges for this Georgia football defense primarily, right? We'll talk a little bit more about what Stetson and the offensive unit has to do coming up towards the end of this segment, but I wanted to start with this offense. Look, I spent all day yesterday studying what it is that Tennessee does offensively, okay? Got the all-22 in my hands, grinded the tape the entire game against Alabama. I've told you a bunch of times over on our film studies that I love watching teams play against Alabama because I know schematically Georgia's going to do something very, very similar to what it is that Alabama does, right? They're a 4-2-5 base defense. They're a Jack and Sam defense. They're a cover 3 zone matching football team, right? They're a simulated pressures football team. They're a speed, rally to the ball, and tackle defense, right? That's everything that is Georgia. They are carbon copies of each other minus personnel adjustments, right? That is it. So I love watching those 2 teams, coincide with one another on tape. Watch that entire game, and I came away with some, pretty obvious talking points when it comes to this Tennessee offense. First off, I think they're going to score Saturday, okay? I don't know what the team total points are right now for Tennessee. I would take the over, especially if it's set at something around 16.5 points. I think this football team scores 17 to 21 points. That is technically a bad day at the office for a Georgia defense that is allowing, I think, 5.57 points per game this season. They allowed 6 points last week, and their points per game total escalated. It went up. It's pretty nuts right now what Georgia's doing defensively, but I do think, again, Tennessee's got a shot. Look, they run 75 snaps per game, okay? They are averaging nearly 460 yards per game this season, and they're scoring 41 points per game in their last 5 SEC football games. So they're explosive. They score a lot of points. We'll get to the explosivity here in a minute. They score a lot of points. They run a lot of plays, and they play fast. So what does that mean? They're going to get a ton of opportunities at the football and a ton of opportunities to drive the length of the field and score a touchdown. I think they do it at least twice on Saturday because they're going to get so many opportunities. That's the point of this offense. The point of this offense is to skew the analytics and skew the data points into your favor. The more opportunities you have the football, the more opportunities you have to score. The more opportunities you have to score, the higher the likelihood is that you're going to score multiple touchdowns and score a lot of points, right? More shots at it, more points at it. That's the whole idea of the offense. So I do believe that no matter what comes down Saturday, Tennessee's going to score more points than you probably think they're going to. Okay? That doesn't mean Georgia doesn't outscore them dramatically, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. So I think they're set up to score points offensively with their identity. Okay? Secondly, prepare for a really long football game. Okay? If you've got plans at 7 o'clock Saturday afternoon, you need to cancel them jokers. Okay? Because believe it or not, fast-paced offenses, spread offenses, offenses that are run and gun, right? These offenses really slow down the game time and the game speed of the football game, right? Because the clock's stopping constantly. They're either throwing incompletions or running for first downs. They're either throwing or running for first downs, or they're throwing incompletions, and they're throwing a lot of them, right? So the clock is constantly stopping. You run 75 plays in a game, that's a lot of clock stoppage. Okay, that's a lot of TV timeouts, okay? So if you got any plans, make sure they're like 9 o'clock because you're going to be tied into this football game for quite some time. And, also, by the way, if you're up 25, 30 points in the second half, they can score and score quickly. So you're going to have to sit around and watch this one, too, if it gets into a blowout situation. So don't go running for the hills when Georgia's up in this football game. It's going to take a while, okay? Put the kids to bed. This one's going to last a while. Lastly, I think this football team checks a lot of boxes that you have to check if you're going to have offensive success. Say that 5 times fast. Offensive success against this Georgia defense, okay? You got to do a handful of things. First of all, you got to be able to run the football. They're averaging 217 yards per game. If you take out a 62-yard performance on the ground against Alabama, by far their worst, the only game in which they haven't rushed for 100 yards all year. If you take out that game, their average goes up to about 240 yards per game, okay? So these guys can get after it on the ground, and they run it 62% of the time, so they're pretty insufferable when it comes to the willingness to run the football, no matter the level of success that they're having. So that's one. You got to be able to run the ball, at least have an ability to run the ball, or show a willingness to run the football. They do that. The second box I think you have to check to beat this Georgia defense and score a bunch on them, you got to be explosive. Okay, if you're going into a football game and you know you got to score 35 points, which is 5 touchdowns, right? You've got to have 5 scoring drives. You might be able to get away with 2 of those being 12-play drives, like real long, grinded out possessions, okay? The other three best be quick strikes, okay? Because the odds are you're not going to put together 12-play drives, okay? Kentucky entered the football game with that strategy. We're going to score 5 times on 12-play drives. They did it twice. They were 3 and out a whole lot of other times, okay? So if your game plan is to score quickly, you got to do it in bunches. This football team is the most explosive in college football by a lot of metrics. Okay? Primarily, they lead the nation in 70-yard touchdown passes, or 70-yard touchdowns, rather. They have 7 of them. 7 of them. You know how many Georgia has? Actually, 1, Brock Bowers, tight end. Okay, they got 1 of those, I believe, this year. So they're a really explosive offense, okay? You got to be able to quick strike. You got to be able to run the ball. They check both those boxes. The last box, most likely the most important, I think to beat this Georgia defense on a consistent basis, you've got to have a special talent and a special player at the quarterback position. I don't know if Hendon Hooker is that, but he's playing like that right now. He's hotter than a firecracker, okay? The guy just coming off an SEC Offensive Player of the Week, role, or rather award. Guys playing hot right now. Again, they've scored 41 points in their last 5 games in SEC play. That is a direct reflection of quarterback play. He's playing really well. He's protecting the football. I believe he's got 21 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. The guy's getting the job done, okay? And additional factor here for Hendon, he can actually run the ball. He's relatively athletic with his legs, okay? He's got some juice. He's a big kid, so you don't have to worry about him getting hit like that Tyler Macon kid last week. I thought they were asking him to get himself murdered against that Georgia defense. Running a 5'11", 205-pound soaking wet quarterback against the number 1 defense in the country, and you're going to run him on quarterback draw several times? That scared me on Saturday for Tyler Macon's well-being. But he was okay. Hendon Hooker is going to run the ball a little bit Saturday. So I think they do check some boxes to have success against this Georgia defense, right? But there's some major problems here for Georgia, or for Tennessee, right, going up against this Georgia defense. Okay, first of all, this offense is predicated on spreading you out, getting you really, really wide, and running the football. Okay, they play really, really wide. They stretch everybody out. They put wide receivers outside the numbers on every single possession. Every single down, it seems like. Their job and their identity is to stretch you out, make you play in light boxes, right? They've got 5 offensive linemen, a quarterback, and a running back, and you've got 5 defenders in the box. You are outnumbered. They have a hat for every hat you have in the box, and they have 2 ball carriers, a quarterback and a running back. You are outnumbered. Against every other defense, that has been a successful way of going about offense for Tennessee. The only problem is you may have the numbers inside the box, but I'm here to tell you that Jordan Davis, he counts for 2 of your guys. Jalen Carter, he counts for 2 of your guys. Devontae Wyatt, he counts for 2 of your guys. So even though you're going to have the numbers on Saturday, even though you're going to do all kinds of stuff formationally to make sure, the box is light for your running backs to get loose, that defensive line just eats space and eats numbers and throws all the advantages you have in terms of box counting out the window. That's a major problem for Tennessee. Another problem for Tennessee is that their pace may work really, really well against most teams. Okay, the speed in which they play with, the 75 plays per game, the getting back on the ball quickly after a first down, after a running play, getting right back on the ball, staying in the same personnel groupings so you don't allow the defense to substitute, things like that, right? Those things work really, really well against teams that don't have a ton of quality depth. That ain't Georgia. Did you see what Georgia's defense, their third unit basically, did against Missouri to end that football game last week? Missouri's doing everything they can to try to score against Georgia's third unit with their starters, and they can't do it. They can't do it, okay? Even though Georgia was in prevent defense all the way up inside the 20. So it's not going to happen, okay, when it comes to, that the pace affecting what it is that this defense is going to be doing. So that's the other thing that they got a problem with. And the last one, their speed, right? Their ability to get up on the ball, play quickly, do some funky stuff formationally, line ineligible receivers up outside in a 4x1 set with the receivers, right? And then slip, pretend to make them run a screen, and then slip a wide receiver deep and hit an explosive. All that stuff works against 2 things. Teams that are A, poorly coached, and B, improperly prepared, right? Poorly coached, improperly prepared football teams give up explosives based off confusion. Neither of those 2 things apply to the University of Georgia. They just don't. So your offensive game plan is to spread us out, get more numbers, and we have guys that defy numbers on the inside, being Georgia, right? If you're Georgia's coaching staff, this is what you're thinking. We got numbers to defy the fact that you got additional numbers. We've got guys that just ruin that, right? Up on the interior of the offensive line, our defensive line. I've shown you that on tape all year. They do stuff defensively that they and only they can get away with because their down linemen are so damn elite. Okay, Georgia can do those things. Other programs cannot. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the pace doesn't confuse anybody. The pace isn't going to be a problem for a team this deep. And the funky pace and formations isn't going to trick a defense like this. They're too well coached, they're too properly trained, and they're too disciplined. So, yeah, Tennessee's offense checks a ton of boxes, but they've also got major, major problems when it comes to playing this Georgia defense. All right, now, We talked about Tennessee's offense. I think it's really, really fun to watch. Hold your questions over there on Discord. We will get to them shortly after we talk about this Tennessee defense. I'm going to read you some stats, and I'm going to read you a final stat. Guys, I've never seen numbers like this that don't coincide with the last number I'm going to give you, okay? So 123rd in red zone efficiency and red zone defense is Tennessee. They're 95th in total defense, meaning the amount of total yards you allow in a football game, 95th in the country. They're 64th, tied for 64th with about 30 other teams with only 12 turnovers gained. So they've only turned the opposition over 12 times this season, so they're not turning teams over at a high rate either. They're 126th in third down efficiency. So not getting teams off the field either on third down. 126, there's 130 Division I football teams. They're 107th in first downs allowed. So they let you get first downs. They don't get off the field on third down, and they are on the field. Think about this. I told you their offense is on the field 75 snaps a game. The problem with playing at a high pace like that is your defense has been on the field this year 80 snaps per game. 80 snaps per game. I haven't looked it up. I'm here to tell you, outside of maybe Ole Miss, that's by far the highest in the SEC. I think Georgia's defense plays like 46 snaps per game because they're really elite. But, yeah, they don't get off the field. Okay, so in conclusion, again, they don't stop you in the red zone. They don't turn you over. They allow you to move the ball, and they don't get you off the field on third down. The fact that this defense is allowing only 28 points per game this year is an absolute freaking miracle. I don't know how they're doing it. It doesn't make any sense. They're 80th right now, middle of the pack, right around middle of the pack, back into the middle of the pack, right? About 60th percentile, if you will, in defense, okay? And they're doing it with like 99th percentile statistics. So something must be happening. It must be really timely turnovers. I haven't been sitting around watching Tennessee football this year, but I have been surprised and, pleasantly surprised with how well they've been coached and how well they have played. I think they're one of the hotter teams in the SEC right now, despite the fact that Tennessee fans are all in the YouTube comments over there. You guys are real creative. I see a bunch of "you suck," "shut up, dummy," "you're an idiot." You guys are real, real smart. Great commenters. Honestly, we'll take that all night. Let's open up the phone lines to the lounge right quick. Get them one more time before the show ends. I don't see anybody unmuted right now, so I'm going to keep filibustering. Nonetheless, so I told you Tennessee's going to score points. I think Georgia has the best offensive performance they've had all year just because Tennessee's defense is that bad. They are that bad. They haven't been giving up a lot of points. I don't know how, but statistically, on tape, bodies, Jimmys and Joes, just not a really, really good defense right now, and their offense has been bailing them out over the last couple of games. Anybody. I will take anybody on a server unmute right now, and we'll get hollering at you. Maybe Damien. Maybe we get you onto the platform. Anybody. There he is. What's up, Damien?
What's good, bro?
I'm just chilling, man. What you been thinking? What do you think about this Tennessee matchup as a Georgia fan? Give it to me. What are your emotions right now? I know, 70% of the Georgia fan base, from the ones that I talk to, y'all think Vanderbilt might beat you and sneak up on you every once in a while. So tell me, what are the feelings? Give me the feelings of a fan right now as we sit here Wednesday night, 9:40, about 3 days away from kickoff.
Well, as a Georgia fan, I think I can speak for a lot of us when I can say that I'm very cautiously optimistic and going from game to game. But I think this presents a really cool challenge for Georgia. I think we'll do really well defensively. And so my question for you was, last year, you had guys like Azeez Ojulari really attack their offensive line and just have a field day with them. And so I was wondering if we would experience a similar performance from Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean and stuff this year.
Yeah, so it's a great.
We would just run all over their O-line and things of that nature.
It's a great question right there, Damien. And here's what I'll tell you. So they've obviously changed entire coaching staff. Last year was Jim Chaney as the offensive coordinator. If you know anything about him, he is a run like 11, 12 personnel, run the football, take deep shots guy. Like, he is as West Coast as they get in modern spread terms, okay? He wants to run the ball, take deep shots, do it from under center. When he was at Georgia, he was heavy fullback personnel base, okay? Extra offensive linemen, extra tight ends, stuff like that. They don't do any of that anymore. Okay, they do everything they possibly can to protect a porous and pretty suspect offensive line. Everything they do is based solely around protecting those guys and keeping them from costing them possessions, right? So they throw the ball quickly. They get the ball out of their hands. They utilize cut blocks. They utilize screen passes. They utilize the run game out of speed option, or not out of speed option, but out of a speed-based offense, right? Playing quickly, hoping that eventually your defense wears down and their lesser talented offensive line can push you around. That's the game plan. Can Georgia move them and push them around? I think so. Yes, 100%. Do they dominate the tackles as hard and as much as they did a year ago? Probably not, because the time to releasing the football is a lot quicker nowadays. But I'm going to tell you what, that interior of that offensive line is going to get absolutely murdered on Saturday. Okay? I spent about of the 3 hours watching tape yesterday, I think I watched 90 snaps. Of the 90 snaps, I would say 50 of them I looked at Cade Mays and just said, or Cooper Mays rather, and said, my God, Jordan Davis is going to have a field day. And I think that's exactly what happens. So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the edge rushers that create as much pressure, to answer your question, Damien. I think it's more the interior guys that really wreak havoc on Saturday. Let's go out to the phone lines again and hit up anybody in that Discord channel that might want to unmute. Jay Griff, I know you. Oh, we got Green unmuting again. Green, I see you, baby. What's up?
Hey, Brooks, I just wanted to ask, when a team goes for home run shots like that, starts striking out, do you think Tennessee will slow the pace down to try to manage that, or do you think they're still just going to try to keep the pace as fast as they normally go if they start really messing up?
Yeah, no, see, that's the thing about this offense. There is no take your foot out of the gas. Like, the offense is predicated off playing fast, and if you're not playing fast, you're not running the offense. Does that make sense? So, like, they have 4-minute offense, right? They have offense that, you know, hey, we're going to play a lot more check with me. We're going to slow it down, things like that. But you're not going to do that from behind, right? If you're behind in a game, okay, and you want to maybe protect things, not make it so ugly, maybe you do that. But I think Heupel keeps his foot in the gas the entire time during this game, just like he did against Alabama. I don't think at any point he got conservative in that football game, except for some stuff that we're going to show you on film tomorrow. There's one particular play midway through the third quarter that after that play, Alabama goes on a, I believe, 28-7 scoring run. Basically, Tennessee not going for it on a 4th and short in plus territory. So, I think you see them keep the foot in the gas. Appreciate you for asking there, Mr. Green. All right, let's go out to Jay Griff. I'm calling on you, buddy. I don't care where you are. What's up, my man?
What's good, Brooks? How you doing?
I'm just chilling. How's the Instagram going? What's that Instagram handle? Let's show you some love. Get some people to follow you.
It's Doghouse Central over there.
Doghouse Central over there on Instagram. You got what, like 28,000 followers, something crazy like that?
No, it's only 13.
It's only 13.
Trying to be like Brooks.
I mean, yeah, I do have, a couple of Twitter followers, but nonetheless, Jay Griff, how we doing tonight, my man?
I'm feeling good. Slowly trying to come to the realization that it'll be okay. That Georgia will probably give up points early. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think you see Clemson within the first, or Clemson, what the world? Tennessee within the first 2 or 3 series probably drop 7-10 points, and then the defense gets accustomed to the speed. If you can ever get accustomed or get used to that type of style of play,
yeah.
And then to see Georgia take over, of course, after we have the Discord mumbling about how awful Stetson is and how he should be taken out.
Oh, it's coming. Don't you worry about that.
250 yards and all that stuff.
All righty. Appreciate you, Jay Griff. Yeah, I think, a lot of people are expecting Tennessee to jump out early. It's because it's what they've been doing this year, right? Jumped out on Mizzou, jumped out big time on Florida, or who was it? Who they play after Mizzou? They were up, I think, South Carolina. They were up like 40 points on South Carolina pretty early as well. South Carolina ended up scratching back into that game, making, I believe, it a 3-score football game. So the Gamecocks showed some fight in that football game. But Tennessee has been jumping out on opponents this year. Georgia's defense has allowed probably their most successful drives to start the football game. I recall Auburn driving the football really, really well. I recall Mizzou having a little bit of success early on with Tyler Macon in the QB draws, stuff like that. Arkansas did not. Vanderbilt did not. But, some teams, South Carolina had some success early in the football game as well, throwing some solo shots down the sidelines, some 50-50 balls to Josh Vance, something they did against Florida this week. So, yeah, some of these teams have had some early success. The key for a team like Tennessee is that when you get in the red zone Saturday, you have to score touchdowns. You cannot kick field goals on Saturday, despite the fact that you are a fast-paced offense. Appreciate the Discord over there. You guys are the OGs, quite literally. We will talk to you in a little bit. We'll do a little post-show lounge hangout, so feel free to stick around in there. We'll talk to you guys in a little bit. All right, we got one final segment of the day, and I'm sure it's the one that all of you guys have been waiting on. Anytime a Georgia fan reads the fact that, hey, it's only just begun. Right? You want to hear some positive things about your football team. I've got some for you. And it's the fact that history in college football, particularly as of late, let me take these headphones out. History in college football, particularly as of late, has pointed to the fact that, hey, these dynasties, right, quote-unquote dynasties, these, 5, 6, 7, 10-year run, 10-year-long runs, most of them kind of stumble out of the gates. They're not always Alabama, but even Alabama stumbled out of the gates, right? And then ended up, once they knock off that first one, man, once they notch off that first one, most of them have perennial success following that. We're going to follow the most two recent examples of these decade-long runs, right? Where you look at a decade of college football and there's two constants, and that's Alabama and Clemson, right? Let's take a look at Alabama. After his first two seasons, kind of struggled, right? Struggling for Alabama. Didn't look like what they look like now or what they've looked like for the past decade back in 2011 and 2012. Almost losing to Tennessee, losing, I think it's Louisiana Monroe or something like that at home on a late field goal. Things like that, barely beating Tennessee because of a Mount Cody blocked field goal, right? A 7-5 football season his first year, and then he cleans house, gets the right guys in there, gets the right staff members in there, and then they go on this run, right? They win that first one in 2012, and they don't look back. Okay, they go on a run for the next decade of college football. They're still in the midst of said run. Take a look at Dabo Swinney up there at Clemson, right? His first 4 years were, 10 wins, right? He had some good early success, but like manageable success, like ACC, good football team success, right? That kind of stuff. Not really in a national title discussion. Losing to Georgia at home, losing to Georgia on the road in 2015, okay? Losing those types of football games on a perennial basis. Being known for Clemsoning, right? That's what Clemson was before they got that first one, right? Before they played for that first college football playoff, before they won their first national title. And then you look back 7 years later and you're like, wow, Clemson's been playing for a national title or in a national title each of the next 6 years, okay? Playing for one or in a college football playoff each of the last 6 seasons, not including this year, right? So takes a little while, stumbles out of the blocks, but once it happens, once you get that first notch on your belt, odds are, if you do it the right way, and I'm going to tell you exactly how the right way is, if you do it the right way, you're going to have sustained success for an extended period of time, right? Until the wheels start to fall off, kind of like they seemingly are right now up there in Clemson, South Carolina. But I think you've got to do two things, just like we talked about with keeping a coach around, right? Two things in terms of why you keep a college football coach around earlier in the show, for those of you who weren't watching. One is on-field success, right? An upward trend in your football team or a steady trend in your football team on the football field, and recruiting success. Those are the only two reasons, right? Well, there's two reasons why a football program will have sustained success after a national title. The first is to recruit, right? It's the lifeblood of college football, despite what a Florida fan might have been telling you for the last 3 years. But guess what? They've come around to the notion that, hey, you want to be a good football team, you probably got to have good players, right? Shocking, I know. It's a revelation that nobody would have ever thought of. You need dudes to be good at football. I'm shocked, okay? These dynasties, they recruit at an upper echelon level, at a top 3 level, top 4, top 5 level, perennially for decades, okay? Georgia's on the path to do that. They've been doing that for the last 4 recruiting classes. We're stretching it into 5 if you want to go back to 2016 before Kirby was there, right? But since 17 on, Kirby's been stacking upper echelon, top 3 caliber recruiting classes, oftentimes number 1, right? So he's checked the box and has proven that even before a national title, he can recruit at the upper echelon level in college football. So he's checked the box to let you know that if he wins a national title this year, you don't have an LSU coming down the tracks, right? You don't have an LSU that, 2 years after winning a national title, your head coach is going to be fired, okay, or stepping away, volunteering to step away, whatever. Okay, that's not going to happen at Georgia because of rule number one, you've recruited exceptionally well. The other thing that leads me to believe that if and when Georgia gets that first notch on the belt in terms of a national title, which I do think is going to be this year, believe it or not. The second reason I think it's going to stick and it's going to be a sustained success and a sustaining model in Athens is not only because of the recruiting, but because Kirby Smart has shown an ability to be able to stack his staff, okay? LSU is what LSU is right now because Joe Brady and the rest of Dave Aranda, right? Dave Aranda and all of the great coaches that made that 2019 LSU football team possible, they left as soon as they had an opportunity to do so. Okay? Clemson coaches staff ain't doing that. There ain't a whole lot of turnover at Clemson. So you can do it Clemson's way, which is where you pay Brett Venables more than 90% of Power 5 head coaches. Okay? You can do it that way. Or you can do it the Nick Saban way and the pseudo Kirby Smart way, which is where you just go out and every year you restack your staff with the next in the latest and the greatest, right? You stash a Will Muschamp. You go out and get a Buster Faulkner at Southern Miss when he's the OC out there because Todd Monken, your new offensive coordinator, said he's a great hire. You go out and get Jamal Adai from West Virginia because he's the youngest and fastest rising prospect in terms of coaching in the defensive backfield, right? You do these things. You pay Dan Lanning. You give Dan Lanning a raise when Texas is sniffing around. You do things like this, right? You hire guys. You hire really good football coaches, and you keep them. And if they leave, like Sam Pittman did, you go out and hire the next best thing in a Matt Luke, and you keep him around until he leaves, and then you go get the next one because that's what it is. Even before Georgia became a national title winning or caliber winning football program, guys were just absolutely pillaging the staff. They were coming to Athens and taking guys left and right. They've been doing it since 2017 when they made a national title run back then in Kirby's second year. Okay, they've been taking guys. Mel Tucker's been getting ripped off the staff. Sam Pittman's been getting ripped off the staff. Scott Sinclair been getting ripped off the staff. I don't think it's Sinclair. The special teams coordinator went up there to Arkansas. The strength and conditioning coordinator that went up there with Sam Pittman to Arkansas. Your Charlton Warren, your defensive backs coach last year, going to be a DC up there at Indiana. Shane Beamer was a tight ends coach in Athens before he went out there to Oklahoma, and now is at South Carolina. Okay, you've been in this environment where your coaching staff's been getting pillaged. He's had the practice at this. He recruits exceptionally well. He stacks staffs better than just about anybody in college football, apart from Nick Saban. He stacks his staff better than Dabo Swinney does because Dabo Swinney ain't had to do it. His best guy, his right-hand man, has never left. And I don't know if he ever does leave. I don't think Brett Venables has aspirations to be a head coach at all, one bit. So he's shown the ability to do these things, which means if and when he does win a national title at the University of Georgia, there's not going to be any fall off. You're not going to have to worry about going 7-5 the next year because all your guys left for the NFL. And all your guys are going to leave for the NFL. I'm here to tell you, if you win a national title this year, you can wave goodbye to a whole bunch of guys that you would have never thought were going to the NFL. It's going to happen. So just be prepared for it. Be prepared for a mass exodus on your roster and be prepared for a mass pillaging of your coaching staff. That is the nature of college football. But again, your head coach has been preparing for it for 5 years now, for half of a decade. He's done everything right up until this point. Now he's got to finish. And I'm here to tell you, as we close the show tonight, I'm here to tell you that there is nothing on this coaching staff's mind from the people that I talk to other than winning a national title. They don't care about playing Stetson Bennett, what it means for their quarterback room in 2022. They don't give a rat's butt. They don't. All they're trying to do is win this week. Give us what gives us the best chance to beat Tennessee. And then next week, it'll be the same answer. What gives us the best chance to beat Charleston Southern? And then the next week, Georgia Tech. And then the SEC championship game. And then the first round of the playoffs. And then the national title. That's all that matters. It is what is ahead of us right now. There is no worry, no thought process, no thinking about what this roster is going to look like in January. When the end of January comes around, they'll address it then. All right. Appreciate you guys for being here. It was a great show. Was glad to be back on NBR with you guys. Let me know what you think about the new studio. I enjoy it. I dig it. I hope you guys did as well. If you're here with us and you're not a member of the Patreon audience and the Patreon family, feel free to do so. Patreon.com/Brooks Austin. Before you leave, see how many of you jokers are here right now. Hit that thumbs up button before you head out. That does this channel and this network a great service. Appreciate you guys for being here. For Brooks Austin, for the Film Guy, for Dogs Daily on SI.com.